Hey everybody, it's Cinnamon Cooney, your Art Sherpa, and today I'm going to show you step by step how you can create for yourself at home, painting along with me, this abstract fish. This is a very abstracted fish. It's the feeling of fish, it's the essence of fish. It's colorful, it's fun, it's energetic. I think a lot of you guys are really going to love it. If you don't want to draw it, we do have a traceable for this one, but I do show you how I sketch it in. So wherever you're at on that journey is fine. To help me do this is my husband, John.
Hello.
Now, Mr. Fanciful Fish here is part of a program called Acrylic April, where I meet with my community every day in April, from April 1st to April 30th, no joke, and do a painting. And that's because nothing helps a student get better at painting than painting. It's just, that's where the magic happens, is you playing with your art materials. So I do that every year. This is my 5th year doing that. So I think we've kind of got some stuff down. If you check the description below, you're going to see a lot of resources and extra information. I like to hide things down there, as I'll mention at the end of the video, but I'm going to tell you at the beginning, like links, where the website is, places to buy things, other things that you can get to help you succeed at doing this painting. We have resources like a school or a book or any of those things. Where is that hidden? That's in the description. If you see stuff on the show you want to buy, you can buy it in our store. That's in the description. You could also never open up that description and just follow this video. And guess what? I wouldn't be mad at you at all. That would be completely fine. It will help if you hit the subscribe button, because that's how YouTube tells you sometimes that I'm live. Signing up at the website for things tells you even better, because we have a calendar over there so you can really see. I hope you're here for the 30 days. If you are, don't forget the group, Acrylic April. Great place to share your stuff. Now, this is a lot of fun, really beginner friendly. I want you to get your paint, get your brushes, come back and meet me right now. I'm going to show you how to paint this. So today's fun day starts with an 8x8 canvas. I have burnt sienna, dioxazine purple, cad red medium, cad yellow medium, phthalo blue, Mars black, phthalo green, and titanium white out on the palette today. John, are you ready to throw us up for a step one?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to get a sketchy brush because I want to create this. Now, this is one where there will be a traceable for you. So if you don't want to do the freehand sketching part of this, you don't have to do that there. You could put the transfer on and then sketch over those lines. But if you're ready for the freehand sketching part of it, I highly recommend it. I'm going to take a little bit of my burnt sienna and my phthalo blue together, and that is the kind of baseline that I'm going to be using. And I'm going to come in and work out the generalized flow and shape and scale of my main subject object, even though I'm being very expressive and abstract about it. Right? So I'm doing a little curve line, curve line. Yeah. Here's the interesting thing. John doesn't know what I'm doing. Like, you guys see the thumbnail, so you know where it's going.
I do not. I have no idea.
John never has any idea. Of what it is that's going on here. But I think at this point he has kind of probably clued in.
I think I'm seeing something come together.
So this is just the very gestural, abstract kind of expression of, well, fish. Right? And our goal with this, when we pick a subject that could be recognizable to the viewer and to ourselves, is to keep things that are anchoring to what the subject is, but not become so mired in the details that we lose the abstraction of the subject, if that makes sense. I am going to switch brushes. Let's go on to the next step. We don't need to dry. Picking a brush. All right, because I want to be loose, I'm going to pick my number 20 Artini hog bristle brush. You could also do the number 18. You can have both of these. You don't need both of these, just, but it's nice to have at least one in sort of in between the size range to let you do some nice blendy work. Now I'm going to come here and get a little bit of my white and that initial sketching color, maybe toned with a bit of blue, on my brush. And I'm going to be making little wiggly, as you do. Little wiggly. Shapy shapies. Brushy brushes. I'm being very scratchy in general. I won't take out my lines completely, but I'm going to paint right up to them, right, as you might. I've added a little more blue and phthalo green. And I'm really just trying to play with some kind of color theory here where we've got, you know, maybe a little turquoise toned with brown. Let's wiggle our corners up here. We're just blending wet into wet. You see how that's just very loose? And I'm softening it. Now through here and through here, it's going to get much darker in value. So let's call this step 1, rinse out and change colors. We're not going to dry and come right back. Okay, so through here, I want it to be much, much darker. So I'm going to take my phthalo blue and dioxazine purple, and that makes almost a deep indigo. And sometimes to get the depth of color, I will want to even come back a couple layers, just because I know that I want it to be deep and strong. Now coming around here, I can kind of blend in either through dry brushing or working wet into wet. I'm kind of doing a combo of both here. I'm just on the toe of the brush, and you can see kind of check blending that in. Can even get a little brown in there. Kind of gray that out. See how that grays that out chromatically? And again, I like this kind of drama of the dark area in the water, kind of working up into this sort of light space in the water. Now, I'll want a couple layers here for this to look very complete and finished. So let's rinse out our brush, dry it, and come right back and continue painting this. I want to keep playing with this. I want to understand that I have my values here, but I want to create some dimensionality to it. I'm going to take a little bit of my white and some of my cad yellow and get a little of my phthalo blue in there. And I am going to sort of brush down from the top down, right over what I already have. It's sort of a very fun space, and come in with maybe a little more white. And again, trying, you know, to create the sense of light maybe is piercing that water. I'm going to take a little of my phthalo blue and phthalo green, as you do. It's getting a nice little value. Come across here, then down, and then maybe across. That fun? So that's just some texture. That's just, you know, we've implied that something's happening, but we're also playing with that space. And I think that that creates that sense of that maybe things are more than what they seem. I'm going to go ahead and get my brush with some more white in it, and I'll come over to my grade color, which, if you'll remember, was the phthalo blue, the dioxazine purple, and a little burnt sienna, and then I haven't rinsed my brush. This will happen a lot when I'm thinking about getting, you know, some drama going, and I want to have unification through the piece. kind of around here. Not taking out the darkness, I'm just adding interest to it. Maybe a little white. Brown. Rinse out thoroughly. A little phthalo blue, a little burnt sienna, a little diox purple, and I will just come back and kind of reinforce these dark edges. Notice these are little tiny pulled brush strokes. I'm not making checks. I am making like fractals of light in a way, but abstractly.
Yeah, just kind of, yeah, I get it.
Okay. That is very, very good. Very good. Now we're going to do some unusual things here. So I do need to dry this thoroughly and rinse that brush out and come back, and we're going to put some of that shocking and exciting light. So let's add some more interesting dynamic space here. I'm going to take a little bit of my white, get just a titch of my yellow in there. I'm working just the edge of the brush. Add some of these little vertical. That's pretty nice. Come under here. And just the corner. Still on this, just number 20. Sometimes I'll work a large brush. And the reason for that is, I'm going to get into my red now, is that it prevents me from tightening up. Just a little bit there. Maybe a little bit there on that back belly. I haven't rinsed it, so the yellow and the white are, still sort of on there. Wiping off, grab a little bit of my yellow. Now I'm going to rinse this out. And I like that. That looks pretty good. Yeah. I'm going to take my bright. So I'm going to use the number 12 Raphael Textura Bright. You can use any bright that you have. You just want a nice square brush. I'm going to be working the edge. If you have trouble with the brights, getting good lines and everything, you can switch to a round to give yourself more control. I'm going to start out with a little bit of my cad red and my cad yellow worked together, and this will be the base of the first line, and then I will tone it after I have this in. So I'm going to be making a kind of a curve, and I want the curve to kind of have a little flick at the end, so it's important to keep it through. Now I'm going to go right through the face because I know I can put that back in later. And then I did an up curve, a draw back, and a stroke. So how that goes is it goes up curve, and then I pull the brush flat, and then what happens on the wide, it does this sort of brush stroke, and then as it narrows out. So it's very much like a calligraphy stroke. I'm going to make some little, I don't know, motion or textural marks that you might think of. And come in here. Now once this is in, right, I can, if the paint is still wet, even pull this up from the white area if it's bothering me, but I am painting over it, so it doesn't really matter in any particular way. Now I'm going to come in here and get a little bit of the yellow and the orange. And I'm going to tone that, interestingly enough, with a smidge of green. So some of that will have that kind of unusual toning, right? Graying it out, pulling it down. And then I'm going to take a little bit of the yellow and get some white into it. Maybe here lighten some of that. So you see how we're taking this and creating a sense of maybe light reflecting in and out. So there's quite a lot of motion and lyrical nature to this. Back to a nice pure orange. Kind of touching some of those marks so that they have that as well. I don't know, I kind of dig that. That's sort of super enjoyable, isn't it? Okay, let's dry this thoroughly, and when we come back, we'll do the next step. So I'm going to come here and get a little bit of my cad red, and I'm going to kind of knock it back with a bit of my phthalo blue. And you can see that definitely kind of takes some of the saturation out. And I'm going to come here back at this little area, just pulling that in. It's a nice sort of little mid-range space. I can even come and get a little bit of this blue into the orange that I made earlier. Come under here. And on the wide of the brush with a light pressure, glaze that out. And so it's very, like you can see in the canvas, it's a subtle thing. It's actually going to help it feel a little bit transparent. Come up here and do a very similar thing. Not everything, just some, right? It's just some of that motion. We're just starting to talk about a little of it as we go. I'm going to come here and get a little of my phthalo blue and burnt sienna. And I'm going to kind of tap a little of that in. A couple spaces here just to sort of talk about that. Creating even a deeper shadow there. Kind of rinse that out. Maybe come over here and start getting into a brighter little orange, that a little pure pigment. Kind of very lightly come over that. And we're going to do a similar thing here. Kind of come over that lightly. That's like the brighter orange. I'm going to pull this back into this space. Right? And we can come back with brighter pops of color, but it's getting this stuff in at this stage lets us build up transparent to vibrant layers. Now let's dry this. We'll dry this. And let's start painting in some of our drama that's here. I'm going to take a little bit of my yellow, and it can be kind of tinted with some of my red, so it's a little bit oranged. And come across here. and kind of pulling that down. A little bit. Maybe a little around the eye. Some here. And then perhaps a little bit coming back at that belly. And get a bit of orange going. And the orange got a little bit desaturated with a titch of blue, so it's bright, right? But it's not the brightest. I'm going to make little kind of checky marks. Do you see how those are? Just little, sort of a super fun thing. And come into my little gray brown here. And I'm trying to work the corner of my brush to paint it. And the reason is if you guys remember, the reason I would do that, and I am going to come in with a round, is that it will help me come into the corner of this mouth here with our dark color, and our dark color was phthalo blue, burnt sienna, dioxazine purple. Come back here and kind of, these are almost, you want him to be so dark that he's almost disappearing into the water towards the back here. So that's why we're kind of using the same value, same. You know, and then as he comes forward, we can go more into a blue. Right, I like that very much. I'm going to take a little bit of blue and green together and get some white involved. Very strong application of that blue. And then I can bring some of those checks up into that orange, as you do.
I like this.
Just working him out at this stage. Sometimes we gotta get a little more white onto there. And I'm doing it at this stage because I just want a little bit of wet into wet work, right? We'll come back and do some, you know, over top dry work, but just right now we just want some wet into wet work. So that's what we're doing. I'm going to come back and really work that eye a little more back into the space that I'm wanting. I'm going to dry everything. So we're going to start pulling some values through here. I'm going to take a little bit of my yellow and I'm going to let it get into where I had a little phthalo blue. And let's use a lot of white. And I'm going to make little dashy marks. I like little dashy marks. And I'll have a value up above this. This is just that starting to get there kind of space, you know, maybe just a shade lighter here. And remember in color shift, the acrylic paint can darken. So that can be super impactful. I'm going to bring a little curl around. Little curl around. Little curl around there. Maybe a little pure phthalo blue. pure phthalo is in of itself sort of a powerful color because the pigment is so vibrant. And I just like to get a little, I'm going to just bring this back up, as you can see, kind of in the directionality of the barrel of the body. I'll rinse that out as you do. I'm going to come back. I always like to get a little white over to my yellow too. And let's bring just a bit of vibrantness. And I will bring it down into, I always think it's important to take colors through space like this. So I'm going to bring it down into this part of the body. Kind of like a weaving, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really neat.
Maybe some pure. Okay, I'm kind of weaving in there and then come back here. I like to get a little white. And where I have to go to the corner, I can go to the corner. Right? Little touches right here, just loose. Just a little touch right there. So these are just little checks, aren't they? Just little checks. We're good with it. We're okay. We don't mind. Let's take a little bit of our red and make a bright orange. Let's call this a step and then continue on. Just because there's a lot of weave here, I just don't want you guys to get overwhelmed in the layers. I'm bringing a little red and orange together. And this isn't so much desaturated as maybe some of it had been. So now we're pulling that bright. I'm going to get a little bit of my red here. I'm going to come forward into the body. See how we've done there? That creates kind of an important kind of lining where we see that this is connective to the structure. Make a nice bright orange. You can also, like, if you have pyrrole orange in your bucket, I'm gonna just kind of, the brush is at an angle. See how that pops that right in there, but it doesn't, almost like a palette knife. Very light orange. And there we go, kind of pulling that down the back. Go back into the red here. Just adding a little bit of that there. I like that very much. Just energetic and fun, and you know, who cannot enjoy it? We enjoy it, don't we? Bring a little of my white and blue. And dry brush up through there. So that's some energy, right? Now let's go on to the next step. We're going to dry everything and we're going to switch brushes. So I'm going to take a little bit of my dioxazine purple and my cad red together. And this is just one of my very favorite color combos. And I'm using a number 10 Raphael round. And I'm going to come in and start to talk a little bit about the little fishy mouth. I'm going to get a little white into it. I'm going to start adding like lighter values in that lavender. Pulling that in, so you see we're creating those little bases of, oh, that's a different plane in the space, and come in with a little blue here. And a little bit back there. So we're kind of finishing out that mouth. I'm going to want, again, the diox and the cad red and a lot of white. Wiggle a little of that interesting color right there. It's kind of a fun little bit. Coming forward with the blue in front of maybe our eye. And again, our eye is phthalo blue, dox purple, and burnt sienna. Adding a little bit of that right around that little eye. That's fun, I think. I'm going to take some of my cad red and cad yellow and come on the inside of the eye. Just as the start. A little white and yellow. Kind of will go at the top. And touch a little just yellow in that eye right there. As you do. Just a little bit. I know it's a lot of black to have out for that, but I just need to have some deeper spaces. I'm going to rinse out and I'm switch over to a liner. Let's take our number 1 liner. Or is this, well, no, this is the number 2 Raphael. You could do the number 1 Princeton. We just want to get a liner we've got control over. I'm going to get a little bit of white and yellow on here. I don't want to drop. Why do everything so abstracted but then spend any time on the eye? That's a lot, because having certain elements well considered, I'm going to add a little bit of red to the top here. And kind of see that it's in maybe a little bit of white over to our dark color. And you can see that does start to pull that little eye together, doesn't it? The thing you got to watch with these is there's a water drop that wants to hide on it, and you can't have the water drop. I'm going to grab just a little bit of white. A little bit there. There's really not much else to say besides that. Let's call that a step, and we'll continue on. I'm back into my CAD red and Docs purple. Just getting lighter and lighter values, and if it gets some blue in it, that is okay. Just adding little lighter highlights here. Just a little bit on that sort of open space. Sometimes I'll come into my dark. I can even get into the black. Where maybe I need a bit of that kind of shadow. What you can see me doing there is thinning. And just sort of wiggle a little line there. I like that. Just, it's sort of lyrical, so sometimes I will be like, oh. A little bit of a highlight there. A little bit on that outside. Maybe a little bit in the center. Kind of trim that in. I feel like it's too restrictive. I'm gonna grab a little bit of my orange. Put it in the mouth. Maybe put it on the inside as well. That's looking okay. So we've got a little bit of that going on. A little white and yellow. Just kind of implying some highlights, right? And kind of a little brushy back and forth. Just a little bit speaking on that energetic little fan. He's just got a lot of energy is what it is. I'm going to take a little bit of this white. Come there in that gill a little bit. And come back with that a little bit behind the eye. And a little bit of that kind of down his little body. I want to get some of my very vibrant turquoise. So it's got a little green in it. It's got the little blue, a lot of white, and some yellow. put that in that kind of part of the fin so it's a little reflective. That little yellow there. Sometimes I'll look and I'll be like, you could use a little yellow to that moment. But I think we're there, guys. I think that we have very expressively and abstractly talked about a fish. And I feel like he looks like he's in the middle of a dive or something, like he's hunting, or, you know, he's definitely engaged in a moment. Yeah. This is one that you can sign, so I am going to sign it. I'm going to use my number 2 Raphael, and I'm going to get my dark watercolor with a little white in it. Make sure I don't have any sort of... And then when we come back, I'm going to tell you what you do next. Well, I hope you enjoyed doing today's abstract aquatic. It's definitely like, you know, when I do these, I kind of always want to have a fish. I think I've had a fish pretty consistently. Sometimes a couple of fish, because fish are fun as subjects. They're colorful. They have a lot of movement. The water is super active. You get a lot of dynamic lighting. So there's just a lot in the topic to play with. And, you know, if you have people in your life that are fish lovers or fishermen, which is why I did kind of more of a, he's an implied wild something. He's non-specific breed wild something, right? But to somebody like that, that might really feel like what that experience for them is like, and or their passion for that particular type of wildlife, you know, is like. And I think that that's why it's always such a wonderful subject. I love tapping into wildlife as just a source of inspiration. It's always really enjoyable. Now, remember, description below. Where do I do there? I had things, information, like links to stuff you need and materials, more information at the website where you can buy stuff, where you can find stuff. You definitely want to check it out. If you like programs like Acrylic April, you might want to consider going by and signing up for the newsletter on the website. That's always a good thing because sometimes I send those out. I don't run ads in my newsletter from like weird advertisers on the net and stuff. So it's just kind of a very like, not as fanciful as, say, a school newsletter. So, like, these are the classes. Here are the links. This is what's happening. I'm working on it. I'm going to try to get more artful with it, but it's just a very direct way of communicating right now. So it can be kind of useful if you're trying to catch up with free classes. Remember, if you need that sequential learning, we've got that resource for you, and we have so many other resources. Where's the Teresa? Well, it's for free on the website, but it'll also be there in the school. So when those resources are there, that way you're not having to boom, look, if that's an option that you want to take. Guys, I so appreciate your time. I want you to be good to yourselves. I want you to be good to each other. And I want to see you at an easel really soon. Bye-bye.